because they've already built up the scale of a mid-sized chip company.
A NIO insider on NIO's NIO Radio, revealed NIO's treacherous journey on getting those chips, developing their own chips, and also the kind of how they got kind of fooled and tricked by some foreign chip automakers, chip makers, and the whole journey and process, how Xpeng and also other guys, they also got tricked. And it's just a fantastic story, and also the advantages of NIO's own chips. And of course, I have that full AI translated clip at the end of this video, so definitely you got to listen to that. It's just a fascinating story. But of course, NIO's chip is one of the standout R&D features of NIO brand in general, NIO company in general. They are the first to introduce the 5 nanometer self-developed autonomous driving chip into an automobile, even before NVIDIA, which is kind of crazy. And then with all this that's happening with NVIDIA here in China leaving the market, there's a tremendous opportunity for NIO to capitalize and sell chips to other guys. And if you listen to that recording, right now, NIO's chip division is so mature that it can be considered its own standalone company, essentially. That's how advanced they are at this. And that's why they're seeking a spin-off. And if they spin off this company, this chip company, and have it as its own company, then I think that really opens the door for more partnerships and selling the chips to other competitors. Because if you think about it, if I'm somebody else, like Cherry or Li Auto or Xpeng, or Xpeng doesn't need their own chips, neither does Li Auto, but if I'm some other automaker, I'm thinking of buying NIO's chips, but then that might be a conflict of interest, because when I'm advertising my car and then I say that, hey, my car uses NIO's chips, then that's going to be sort of advertising the competitor, right? So in a sense, if they spin it off and they have their own chip company and call it something else and not NIO chips, just something else, then they're able to really sell the chips to everybody and not just like NIO themselves. So of course, that's going to be amazing. That's going to generate a huge amount of shareholder value for everybody. And if that chip company goes public, that's also just a huge boost. Now, here in China, you have huge amounts of subsidies and government support for chips, because there's this chip war going on, right? NVIDIA's chips not allowed, American chips not allowed in China, and really domestic products. There's the AI war, basically, chip war. Who can make the better chips? Who can make the faster chips? Who can make the better AI? And with this chip war going on, China is full throttle, full support in any chip company that, you know, develops chips that can one up the Americans. So it's kind of at this point of situation where even in America, you see NVIDIA begging the government for funding and support, because they're saying, Jensen Huang saying, we're going to lose the AI race, we're going to lose this race. So it's sort of forcing the government to really invest in NVIDIA and really boost NVIDIA to make sure that NVIDIA is better than everybody else. In China, you have that similar situation, but it's been going on for a while. China wants to support its own chip makers. So NIO becoming a chip maker, right, and being so, being the first mover in this sense, actually, ahead of NVIDIA, this is just a fantastic opportunity for NIO themselves to capitalize. So according to the interview, which you'll hear in a moment, NIO has, like, their chip division, they're working on new products and all that kind of cool stuff when it comes to chips. And I fully expect them to get the full government support from China, because they're so proficient and so good at making chips. And this is just going to offer huge shareholder value. Okay, just the chip division itself, because, you know, selling cars is one point, but then if you can sell chips, that's a whole nother story, right? Yeah. And imagine with government backing, that's insane. So right now, as it stands right now, NIO's cars are the first cars to have the 5 nanometer self-developed chips in their cars. So very soon we could see other guys also come out with cars that use NIO's chips, hopefully in the future. Now, watch that interview. It also covers how Li Auto failed at making their own chips, etc. Very, very fascinating. So definitely watch that, okay? As always, don't forget to smash the like button. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.
Let me talk a bit about future self-developed chips, which is a fascinating story, but it also shows how we can be misled by foreign companies at any time, so we must develop our own technology. This isn't just a slogan. In fact, NIO, Xiaomi, and XPeng have all tried to avoid self-development. This is the first point. As for the second, why self-development? Ideal Motors was the last to realize this. NIO and Xiaomi started earlier. NIO and XPeng initially wanted to use third-party chips, so they partnered with an overseas company called Marvel, but they each got burned in different ways. When NIO's collaboration with Marvel was nearly at production stage, Marvel suddenly pulled out. NIO had no choice but to push forward and assemble their own team. So NIO's Banyan chip is now independently developed. They're looking to capitalize on this because they've already built up the scale of a mid-sized chip company. They have people covering every stage of development. They've assembled the complete process. They were somewhat forced into this position. Initially, they wanted to leverage outside expertise since Marvel supposedly had relevant experience. But for automotive grade chips, even Marvel actually had little experience themselves. Everyone was essentially starting from scratch. The company also burned XPeng, but He Xiaopeng was more aggressive. When Marvel suddenly announced their exit from the Chinese market, XPeng realized something was wrong. Later, they discovered Thor chip deliveries would be delayed. So XPeng accelerated development of their Turing chip. They paused the adaptation work on the Seoul chip, temporarily putting it on hold to focus entirely on their own Turing chip. That's why Turing made it to production this year. Originally, Turing was just a backup plan. Ideal Motors was slower to catch on regarding this issue. Ideal delayed their vehicle update from earlier this year. They postponed the release, but ultimately couldn't wait any longer. Ideal's delay was mainly due to issues with Thor and Seoul chips. This is a consumer-facing problem, and about the Seoul chip, it's not actually a true automotive-grade chip. From the beginning, it wasn't designed solely for vehicles. It was oriented toward AI computing because NVIDIA's automotive chips and AI capabilities are integrated. It's all integrated into one piece. NVIDIA combined these two departments from the beginning, so it wasn't specifically designed for automotive needs. So XPeng developed Turing themselves. They're now enjoying the benefits. This is their self-developed chip. It uses visual algorithms. They also included 2 image processing ISPs inside. This guy really knows his stuff. Wow, he can explain everything. Oh my goodness, yes, that's right. I'm telling the story about the old 6 sales guy. I can share about that too. First-gen car owners complained about something called Schrodinger's suspension. This suspension would shake randomly. It would vibrate unexpectedly because we were using German mainland suspension. And communication with the mainland took forever. The time frame was very long. The gap was huge. This situation led to problems. NIO learned from this painful experience. They committed to in-house development from base logic to full architecture. In 2021, NIO had something interesting. We all know about our vehicle's self-driving chip from NVIDIA, right? But our infotainment chip was Qualcomm's 2 different manufacturers' chips. Their computing platforms couldn't communicate. But in 2021, NIO tried something. They developed their own architecture to connect these 2 chips' computing power. But after connecting them, it was hard to use in their ecosystem. This pushed them to develop their own chip, the current Divine Machine 9031 chip. It has significant computing power for infotainment, I should note. NVIDIA doesn't just target Chinese companies. Seoul chips hurt both XPeng and Ideal. They hurt foreign companies too. NVIDIA has its own autonomous driving division. They have a support department. They've been working on it, but that department is struggling. Mercedes initially partnered with them, including GM or Ford in the US. They made big promises at first, but delivered nothing substantial. Mercedes in China switched to Mobileye because they realized NVIDIA is impressive, though. They achieve equal treatment, not just targeting Chinese companies. They're just that good. They pit Germans too.